What if Luffy were reborn with all his current powers and memories? How would that impact the entire storyline? There are unlimited possibilities with this, but you don't have to worry about it. In this video, we've gathered 3 alternate timelines in which Luffy gets reborn with all his powers and memories. Without any further ado, let's dive right into it. In the first timeline, Luffy's reborn with every memory and every ounce of power from his previous life intact. He's born once again in Fuchsia Village, just like the original story, but this time, he remembers absolutely everything. He knows the future that awaits him, the crew he'll one day gather, every enemy he'll face, and the pain of losing Ace. Along with his memories, he retains all his abilities. Gear 5, mastery over all forms of haki, and the experience of countless battles. Despite being trapped in a child's body, Luffy's mind and spirit belong to a veteran warrior with an unbreakable heroic will. When Shanks comes to Fuchsia Village, Luffy's connection to him is far deeper than a simple admiration. He tries to warn Shanks about looming threats with Blackbeard and the catastrophic war at Marineford. Of course, no one would seriously believe such warnings coming from a small child. Still, Shanks can sense that there's something unusual about Luffy. Unlike the original timeline where the Gomu Gomu no Mi is eaten by accident, this time Luffy consumes the devil fruit fully aware that it carries the power to reshape the world itself. Once Luffy begins his journey, the difference is immediate and undeniable. Alvida's defeated effortlessly, Zoro's rescued without delay, and his crew comes together far earlier than expected. He helps Nami to take down Arlong before the villagers are pushed to their breaking point. He instills courage in Usopp from the very start and pushes Sanji to pursue his dreams beyond simply guarding the Baratie. On top of that, Luffy introduces the concept of haki to his crew far sooner than in the original story. By the time the Straw Hats reach the Grand Line, they're already terrifyingly strong. None of their enemies can truly challenge them. Luffy still fights with the same fiery spirit, but now every move's calculated. He thinks ahead, avoids reckless mistakes, and most importantly, refuses to abandon anyone along the way. The greatest divergence happens at Marineford. This time, Luffy prepares for everything. He gathers allies like Hancock and Ivankov and coordinates more carefully with Whitebeard's forces. When the war erupts, Luffy doesn't rush in blindly. He uses future sight to evade Akainu, clashes head-on with admirals using advanced Conqueror's haki, and manages to save Ace before tragedy can strike. Luffy and Ace escape together, leaving the world in disbelief. The Marines lose their greatest chance, and Luffy's reputation spreads across the sea. He becomes a beacon of hope not only for pirates, but for everyone suffering under the rule of the world government. From that point onward, Luffy continues his path toward Laugh Tale, but his purpose has evolved. He no longer is just a pirate chasing freedom, he wants to reshape the world itself. He prevents Fishman Island from falling into chaos by forging peace between humans and fishmen. He liberates Wano far earlier than expected, standing alongside the samurai against Kaido. Wherever he travels, people are united, saved, and given the strength to rise on their own. Little by little, the world begins to change, not through fear or domination, but through the power of Luffy's heart. He's someone who already knows how the story's supposed to end, yet chooses to write a better one. This is the ideal timeline where Luffy remains good and resists being consumed by his own power. But what happens if that power corrupts him instead? In the second timeline, the story takes a far darker turn, exploring what happens when Luffy's corrupted by the very power meant to save him. He's reborn in Fuchsia Village with all the memories of his previous life intact, but instead of joy or relief, he feels nothing but rage. The pain of losing Ace still burns inside him. He remembers every moment where he was too weak to protect others, every lie told by the world government, and how cruel and unfair the world truly was. Now that he's been given another chance, along with all his strength, Luffy decides that things will change. This time, he'll be the one in control, no matter the cost. He still possesses Gear 5, mastery over all forms of haki, and the battle experience of someone who's survived the entire Grand Line, but unlike before, this power is no longer used to save others. Instead, he wields it to eliminate anyone who stands in his way. When Luffy begins his journey, friendship means nothing to him. He still forms a crew, but he chooses members only based on strength and usefulness. They're not family to him, they're assets. Zoro and the others still join, but their bond is completely different. Luffy doesn't invite them with trust or belief, he demands absolute loyalty. Using his knowledge of the future, he manipulates them into following him. He tells Zoro exactly what kind of life he'll lose if he refuses. He warns Nami about the fate that awaits her village under Arlong. At times, he even shows them fragments of the future, revealing how their dreams can come true if they stay by his side. But every promise carries an unspoken warning. Zoro and the others follow him, but the warmth that once defined their crew is gone. Luffy's no longer the man they once believed in. The smile still appears on his face, but it feels hollow and false. He crushes enemies like Arlong, Crocodile, and Enel with ease. He doesn't fight to protect the innocent or free the oppressed. He fights to send a message. Anyone who stands in his path is erased. His dream's no longer just becoming the Pirate King. He wants absolute control over the seas, ensuring that no one can ever threaten him or the people he cares about ever again. Luffy begins acting far earlier than before. He tracks down Blackbeard long before Marineford and completely eliminates him. Potential threats are destroyed before they can grow. The world government has no idea what kind of storm is approaching. When the Marineford War finally happens, Luffy doesn't charge in blindly like he once did. This time he arrives with a detailed plan, overwhelming power, powerful allies, and no mercy. He saves Ace, but that's only the beginning. He goes on to hunt Akainu, clash with the admirals, and completely devastate the Marineford base itself. From that day forward, the world's never the same. Luffy's name becomes something people fear. Pirates tremble at the thought of crossing him, Marines avoid him entirely, even the Yonko acknowledge him as a massive threat. He defeats Kaido and Big Mom not to liberate Wano or protect its people, but to increase his own dominance. He begins claiming territories, ruling them with absolute authority. He's no longer a symbol of freedom, but a king. Luffy eventually becomes the Pirate King, but not the kind whose name inspires songs or legends. His rule brings a twisted form of peace, not because the world's safe, but because everyone's too afraid to resist him. Everything he does is driven by his desire to protect the people closest to him, his crew and those he holds dear. He knows that his greatest weakness has always been how deeply he cares, and to avoid being hurt again, he distances himself from them, watching over them from the shadows rather than standing beside them. In the previous two scenarios, we witnessed Luffy's good and evil versions. However, there's a huge possibility that Luffy becomes neither of those and becomes someone unrecognizable. We know what happens to people who have power. They get betrayed. Something similar happens to Luffy. This third scenario begins as Luffy is reborn with all his memories and powers. At first, he's the same old Luffy who's fun-loving, goofy, always chasing meat and freedom, but now he's smarter. He knows how dangerous the world is and uses that knowledge to prepare better. He trains his crew early, helps them awaken Haki sooner, and quickly wipes out enemies like Crocodile and Enel. He still wants to be Pirate King, but there's something deeper this time. He wants to protect Ace no matter what. He believes that with his memories and strength, he can change the future. Watching everything unfold from afar is Shanks, the man who inspired Luffy, the symbol of freedom and peace. But this time, Shanks is different too. Shanks also knows the truth. Maybe he was told by the Gorosei, maybe he saw the future through mysterious means tied to the One Piece. But in his heart, Shanks believes Luffy is key to saving the world. But Shanks sees something else too. Luffy's love for Ace is weakening him. He's fighting too emotionally. He's not thinking like someone destined to change the world, but he's thinking like a boy who just wants to protect his brother. So Shanks makes a decision, and that too, a terrible one. He steps into Marineford, pretending to help. Luffy's relieved to see him. He trusts him more than anyone, but when the moment comes when Luffy's about to free Ace, Shanks appears out of nowhere and kills Ace. Shanks tells Luffy a painful truth because he strangely cares about him. He says, "The world needs a hero, not a brother. Your purpose was never to save your brother, but to save the world." Then Shanks leaves. He isn't running away, but trying to make Luffy stronger. Luffy's heartbroken. Everything he believed is a lie. His brother's gone because someone he loved allowed it to happen. This changes Luffy forever. He loses his innocence and stops wanting to be Pirate King. His new goal is bigger, and that is to break the world's corrupt systems. He becomes a force of destruction. He stops laughing and trusting. His new crew is made up of people who've lost everything just like him. He still fights for what's right, but he no longer is merciful. He attacks the world's rulers and eventually goes after Shanks himself. Their final battle is a tragedy. Shanks wanted to make Luffy great, but Luffy believes no one should control his destiny. In the end, Luffy wins. He doesn't become king or take the treasure. His only goal was to get revenge for his brother by destroying the world that took him, and he succeeded. Now, he has nothing left to want. Luffy's sole purpose for existence is basically gone. From this point onward, Luffy can go in multiple directions. However, in my opinion, Luffy will just end up on a random island where he can live the rest of his life alone. If we think realistically, Scenario 1 seems the most feasible, but we can't ignore the fact that the One Piece world is a cruel place, and something like Scenarios 2 and 3 can still happen. Let me know which scenario is your favorite. Till next time.